Hello, I'm Dante Simone. I'm very happy to sort of be the one to introduce you to our project here. The basis of our group's formation really was our shared interest in studying gender and what effects gender has on our society, whether it be social, political, institutional, what have you. And that's kind of the shared macro level interest that we all shared going into this. But we sort of agreed that for our project, we'd have to narrow our focus down a bit into the micro level. And we decided we wanted to see how gender may impact people's lives in an institutional setting, such as a college, since we're college students and our subjects would most likely also be college students. So after giving this some thought for a while and looking at various research articles that highlighted some relationships between gender and college institutions, we formulated our hypothesis, which is how does gender impact the allocation of wealth to students in higher education?
Hi, my name is Alex Hernandez. I'm going to be discussing half of our background literature for our topic. Both of my selected sources are academic articles surrounding the nature of financial inequalities surrounding uh, higher education in younger people. The first article, titled College Tuition and Income Inequality, essentially creates a compendium of many different studies using a cumulative model and a frame analysis in order to show the accumulation of income dispersion at the top, resulting in higher demand for colleges and ultimately leaving working class and lower income families in gentrified or not communities behind, while college tuition continues to rise. And the second article utilizes a frame analysis as well, which is a multidiscipline method, opting to pull from a multitude of sources, making concrete the tenets of privilege in a familial context, while the first one was mostly focused on discussing the ubiquitous findings across different studies and relating them into one cumulative model on overall income growth, rising tuition costs. This is more discussing, separate from education, how accumulation of wealth in different generations can concentrate it in certain places. Obviously, this study was discussing a study done for Toronto, but this phenomenon is shown in this study, referencing others, to be prevalent in countries with similar OECD index growth to the US, which contributes to its replicability and external validity. Overall, the subjective nature to both of these is difficult to extrapolate completely, but these studies provide a culmination of many different others, and so I think they were really beneficial to our topic.
I'll be discussing the research article, Gender Differences in College Applications, Aspiration, and Risk Management. In this research article, they discuss the systematic differences between men and women when applying to college. The authors are seeking to better understand the difference between the selectivity of the highest ranked program, number of safe choices, and clustering of choices between men and women. This paper uses data from the Central Admissions Office of Ireland between the years 2015 and 2017. This data includes age, gender, leaving certificate subjects, and grades, year they sat for the leaving certificate, and other demographic data. There is a 3.5% difference between genders enlisting a university. This data suggests that women are more likely to aim higher and list more selective universities at their top choice. The authors also looked at how likely males and females are to list programs that are from multiple different levels of prestige or degree rankings in order to explore gender differences in risk in applying to safety schools. The data indicated that girls are 5% more likely to list in colleges that are in 2 ranking levels, and high-achieving girls are 10% more likely to apply for colleges in 2 level compared to their high-achieving counterpart males. This supports the author's hypothesis and concludes that females are more risk-averse and less confident in their abilities compared to boys. Next, I will be discussing the research article, Gender Differences in the Pathway to Higher Education. This article focuses on how gender differences affect the application process when applying to colleges. The authors seek to better understand the cause for the underrepresentation of men compared to women when applying to colleges in the 1990s in developed countries. The authors also hypothesized that the mechanisms involved in this gender disparity are a result of social attitudes towards the education of women, as well as female and male reading achievements. The authors found that in nations where there are more positive attitudes towards women attending education and women had higher reading scores, there were more women than men enrolled in higher education. The authors also found that there was less of a gender gap in enrollment in countries where men had higher reading scores.
So to properly assess how much generational wealth is allocated to each student based on their gender, we decided to make a survey asking about their income level, their gender, identity, if they feel like their college was encouraged or kind of looked down upon, etc. And we really did a convenience survey here as opposed to a simple random sample, which would have been more accurate and more fully encompassing of all UO students, but we had roommates and friends who were willing to participate in our survey for us. So yeah, it was more of a convenience sample, which we understand is slightly skewed in the results, but again, it's just exploratory research, so we did the best that we could. And we weighed out all the ethical issues like confidentiality, beneficence, etc. And we really think we got really accurate data for our research project.
We left our survey open for 2 weeks, and over those 2 weeks, we received 40 responses. Of our respondents, 26 identified as female, 12 identified as male, and 2 identified as non-binary. Some of the other information we decided to collect through our survey was the primary form of payment students were using for tuition, whether or not they had to take out loans, and any scholarships they may have received. Some interesting information we collected from our survey data were that more men than women reported having to take out loans to pay for their higher education. Among women and non-binary people, the primary form of scholarship was academic, whereas among men it was a combination of academic and financial.
Hi, I'm Aaliyah, and I was in charge of the data analysis and conclusion section in our essay. Basically, what the data showed us was that fortunately nobody at the University of Oregon feels as though gender impacts their ability to gain support both emotionally and financially in regards to obtaining a higher education. That's really cool to see. I think that as a female, I could agree that the University of Oregon does a great job compensating for losses in terms of equality. I think that, more scholarships are available, and someone even mentioned that in the study, and they can agree with me on that, and I think that's really cool, although I don't believe that is everywhere. So I think University of Oregon is definitely one of those colleges that acknowledges it and does their part, but I do think that there's a giant amount of universities out there that don't do that, don't take pride in that, and honestly kind of sweep it under the rug, and that's why it's still a problem today, and that's what we were trying to find. So that was really our only fault, was probably that our selection bias, we did have one because it was really convenient, and we're just trying to make an easy first little study. And so yeah, I think if we were to do this study again and to choose maybe even a university on the East Coast in a totally different environment, maybe different morals, different community, all that, and it would definitely be more interesting to analyze the data, although it was really cool to see that University of Oregon and the people that attend school here feel as though they aren't suffering any inequality or losses due to their gender. So, and that is just our small, selection of people, but it was still cool to see. So good job, University of Oregon, and keep it up. All right, bye.